Dad, Mike Dediger, had a nice chat with me, and we talked about the disconnection.
There are three styles of parenting, if you will, that are often mentioned. One is permissive, when everything goes. The kid can do whatever he wants, and there are no rules or limits. And then there's authoritarian, which is like super harsh and demanding and dictatorial, and a lot of conditional parenting. And those ways of parenting are connected with a lot of consequences that show up later in life for the children that can be quite painful. And the one they see that leads to children being most fulfilled as adults, it is about setting boundaries, but holding them compassionately and not overdoing it. So you give your children the range to learn from their own mistakes, but also lovingly held boundaries. Whatever behavior a child is expressing, in one way or another, it's an attempt to connect. And it's my role as a father to understand what connection is missing here, and how can I help that child, how can I help my child make that connection. And if I say time out, if I put my child in a room, I'm disconnecting it.
I thought it was great how Mike talked about how behavior is an attempt to connect. Next time your son or daughter is misbehaving, think about the possibility, the probability that they're trying to connect with you. Maybe you've been ignoring them, or you're not giving them the attention somehow that they need. So dads, think about how you're connecting with your kids. Is it causing their misbehavior? Maybe you're disconnecting. And if you connect with your kids, their behavior might get better.
This was with our oldest daughter. At the time, she was probably about 4 years of age, and she got into a dispute over a toy or something with another child. I don't know, there was some very benign situation that gave rise to this. But what happened really surprised me. As I tried to engage her and address it and get her calmed down, her temper actually flared and she got really upset. I mean, upset in a way that I had never seen before. So, I carried her off to her room to try to remove her from the situation and get things calmed down. But she just kept yelling louder and louder with more vigor. And eventually she screamed at me. Her face was just totally red. She's like, "I hate you." And her body was just shaking with rage. And I was just stunned. I had never seen anything like it before. I honestly didn't know how to react. I felt completely helpless in that moment. And so I sat with her as long as I needed to. I talked with her for as long as I could. And eventually she got calmed down and a sense of normal returned to the family. But I was really shaken up by that event. My wife and I talked about it for many days following that. And we kind of eventually concluded that what happened there was that there had been some kind of angst or worry or something building up in her that we didn't know, we didn't perceive. And it just kind of all blew up right there in that moment. And there had been some kind of long theme, maybe some sort of unmet need or something that we weren't picking up on, that she was kind of inadvertently telling us about, albeit in a very aggressive way. And so from that moment, I just learned, like, man, I am missing it. There are things going on in the hearts of my children that I don't see, I don't perceive. I lack the eyes to see them. And so we really pressed in hard to develop more skill in understanding what's going on in the hearts of our children. To this day, I'm still trying to get that. I mean, this is very much a growing process for us. But I look back on that moment, and I wish so much that I had known then that there were lots of things bubbling underneath the surface in the hearts of our children, and we can never afford to be inattentive to those things. And I just wish I had better rhythms and better structures in place to give my children a chance to tell me about these things and to express them in a more healthy way, rather than having to wait till they build up to this crazy moment and then just blow up all over the place. That was very destructive.
All this talk about connecting with your kids, it brings up the idea of needs and feelings. We all have needs and feelings, as does your kids. And in order to connect, you need to know how to empathize. I want to introduce to you today Nathan McTague. He's going to talk more about how behavior changes when needs are met.
Behaviors are kind of like the topmost level, and they're what we see. But below that are all these feelings that kids are having. Some feelings are better feeling and other feelings are worse feelings, and those are usually motivated by whether or not their needs are met. Unmet needs generate less comfortable feelings and less agreeable behaviors or actions. And met needs give rise to more comfortable feelings, which then is expressed through actions that the herd likes better. So what we do now, and I guess part of it is because we've created a culture of this in our family, what we do now when we see behavior that we don't like is we ask what's going on for the child with their feelings. And through that discussion and through empathizing with their feelings, we get a sense of, are there some needs going unmet here? And how can we approach meeting those so that their feelings are feeling better, and then the behaviors or actions are naturally more conducive to a team or a group setting. So I guess practically speaking, what we do is, if, like, for one example, if the two of the sisters are having an argument or something, we don't go over immediately and start, cracking skulls or acting as the judge or anything like that. We draw attention to the feelings that are going on, and we say something like, "You guys seem like you're having some trouble. Is there something going on that you need to talk about, or what's really happening here for you?" And often that sort of an approach breaks open the sort of rough exterior of their emotions, and we can help them process. Sometimes it has nothing to do with the interaction. Sometimes it's some feeling they're holding on to from earlier. Sometimes it's a feeling that they're worried about how much they matter to us as parents. And so that has somehow wound its way into the interaction between the two sisters. Our approach is always about finding out what the feelings are involved at that moment. And then if there are some unmet needs underneath there, trying to approach those.
I want to quickly introduce to you John Simmons, and he talks also about this thing called empathy.
I always try to put myself in my child's shoes, and I try to be very careful in that I'm not saying what would I want in that situation, because I'm very different from a lot of my children. I try to say, what would I need if I was that child in that situation with that history and that personality? And I really try to empathize with them and understand how they're feeling, rather than just saying, how would I feel in that situation?
So dads, how are you empathizing with your kids? I'd encourage you to think about that. Look at the course notes and really write down your ideas and answer the questions. Because in order to connect, you're going to need to empathize.